Hello and welcome everyone to a national call with Rank the Vote. And this evening we are also with Voter Choice New Jersey. My name is Celia Nolan. I'm training director with Rank the Vote, and I'm so excited for you all to hear the story of what Voter Choice has been doing. And I really do think of it as a story. It's been building up. There's more to come. And I think we all have something to learn. Passing ranked choice voting is never easy. Various states have various obstacles and situations, and there can be creative ways that we can get around that. And Voter Choice New Jersey has really found a way to set the table for ranked choice voting wins when conditions are favorable. So if y'all would like to put in the chat maybe what states you're from, that might be interesting for our host to see as we get underway here. And also, I want to let you know about our next national call, which will be December 11th. So it might be cold for some of us. You can zoom in from your home and hear from Represent Women, who is a new report of their gender parity index. So we can see what did our representation look like in 2024. We'll know at least some election results by then, so we can see maybe what it's looking in the future and their analysis too. So that will be a great one. I'll put the link to register for that in the chat. And also, I want to make sure everyone knows about the documentary film Majority Rules. This tells the story of Alaska's first ranked choice voting implementation, goes through a great explanation of ranked choice voting and some other reforms in the history of primaries. So this is another one, especially in the winter. You can have an event indoors, show folks a movie, talk about it. If you're interested in having a screening, Rank the Vote can help you organize with a free link. So just email us at info@rankthevote.us. And you can also go to our website under Take Action and State Events. You can see um, scheduled screenings of majority rules throughout the country and other events. And also go to the website. You can watch it on Apple, Google, and YouTube, and maybe more. More is coming. So I'll drop those links in the chat too. All right. I think that takes care of our housekeeping, and I am eager to hear from our New Jersey folks. So, Veronica Jack, I'll just hand it right over to you.
Thanks, Celia, and thanks everyone for joining this evening. We are excited to talk to you about Voter Choice New Jersey and our campaign to win ranked choice voting in the Garden State. So I'm going to attempt to share the presentation. Can folks see the presentation? Great. And you don't see speaker notes or anything, my screen, desktop? Good. All right, just making sure we got that all covered. Okay. So for tonight's agenda, we're going to go through Voter Choice New Jersey, who we are, and some introductions of our leadership team. Several of our leadership are attending this call. We're going to go through New Jersey's legal framework a bit, and that will set the stage for how we've designed our campaign to win ranked choice voting. Then we'll talk to you about our campaign, our strategy, and then we'll highlight our recent wins. We'll do lessons learned, and then we will have a Q&A session. So who we are. Voter Choice New Jersey is a volunteer-led organization. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit. We're focused on ranked choice voting, education, and advocacy in the Garden State. While we as an organization do support RCV for use in all elections, our short-term goal is on adopting RCV for local elections. And do folks on the leadership team want to do a quick intro before I go further? Jack, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jack. I do more of our technology and research side. A lot of our infrastructure we do in order to be able to help teams like Veronica succeed. Uh, I don't know if April is on the call or able to join us. Uh,
Yes, hello.
she's calling in. Oh, she's
Hi,
joining us
can
from a
folks hear
hike.
me?
So yeah, we can hear you, April.
Great. Hi, my name is April Nicklaus. I'm the head of our education and outreach team. So I handle our live outreach, our presentations, and our mock election events that we run.
Thanks, April. And then I'm Veronica Akezwa, and I head our campaigns team, and we focus on legislative advocacy, local/grassroots organizing, and relationship building with organizations. And all those efforts are towards the adoption and implementation of ranked choice voting. Renee, do you want to say a quick hello?
I'm Renee Steinhagen. I'm the board president since we are a nonprofit. And right now have been working mainly on campaigns with Veronica. I think Larry, Brian, and Rowan are on the call as well. So maybe they can just say hello and introduce themselves as well. Is that possible, Cecilia? Do people in the audience have the ability?
Absolutely. Go ahead and unmute Larry. Would love to hear from more of the New Jersey leadership team.
Thanks. My name's Larry White. I'm an organizer for Voter Choice New Jersey. I keep one leg in April's world doing presentations to groups and elected officials, and one leg in the campaigns team with lobbying and getting resolutions and trigger ordinances out of municipalities, which you'll hear more about in a bit. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, folks.
Is Brian on the call?
Oh, yes. Did Brian or Rowan want to say anything?
Very briefly.
I'm good. Hello, everyone. I'm the least important member of the team, so no need to spend time on me.
That is not true, Brian.
My name is
I
Rowan,
appreciate that.
humble volunteer for the education and outreach team.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone, for those intros. Okay. So now you have some faces behind the organization. That's always nice. And you heard a little bit about our structure. Campaigns, where all of our volunteers fall into our three buckets. Our campaigns team, our education and outreach team, and our central functions team. So next, I'm going to provide a brief overview of New Jersey's legal and I'll say cultural framework, so that you can get a sense for how we designed our campaign and how we are targeting our efforts again. So New Jersey's legal environment has a few features. I've selected some here. Renee, feel free to chime in if there's anything super relevant to add. So one feature I'll highlight is the plurality voting system, which are the way that most elections work for local, state, and federal elections. With that said, New Jersey's election laws currently do not allow for ranked choice voting. So I've just listed a few of those election laws that govern different types of elections in New Jersey. So there's an article in the Constitution, Article 5 governs gubernatorial elections. And then we have some statutory law that governs other elections. There is one provision that does permit majority voting for certain municipal elections. And that's the Uniform Nonpartisan Election Law. And that permits majority voting to elect the governing body through runoffs. But that is a select number of municipalities that follow that law. Some other features are that New Jersey has no citizen right to statewide initiative. I know that was how Celia framed this call. So that's important to know. That's an important feature to know about New Jersey's environmental landscape or legal landscape. Although again, there's an exception. Certain localities do provide a right for local initiative. And then thirdly, a feature to know is that this is more of a cultural but legal thing. New Jersey has a strong sense of home rule. So there is, a strong belief that, localities want their own authority, strong local presence to set forth their own rules and regulations. Those are three important features to highlight. I will just say that efforts, the takeaway here is efforts to elect by majority rule do require the legislature passing a bill to enact change. We know that getting ranked choice voting for state and federal elections is a very heavy lift. We think focusing on local elections is the best way for getting legislation passed through the legislator soon. And it's a way to get New Jerseyans experiencing ranked choice voting hands-on and as quickly as possible. We also know that to convince elected officials that ranked choice voting is a good initiative to support, it's going to take a lot of work. And we figured that if we started with state elections, we'd get a lot more pushback there. So these are all the contributing factors to our focus on local elections. So Voter Choice New Jersey's short-term goal is to enable ranked choice voting for use in local elections. And we have a strategic plan and two objectives. One is to pass state enabling legislation by June 2025. The state enabling legislation is called the Municipal and School Board Voting Options Act. What that does is it enables ranked choice voting to be used in local elections, local municipal and school board elections, where people can elect their mayor, council members, and school board members. And this is if approved by the voters in the locality. The second objective is to pass local resolutions and trigger ordinances to drive momentum for the state enabling bill. And this will also set ourselves up for ballot questions in key towns after that state enabling bill passes. So two things to call out. We underlined enabling. So elements of this bill that are important to understand are that the state enabling bill does not mandate all local elections to use ranked choice voting. It is enabling. And then the second element here is the change from plurality voting to majority voting method will be a ballot question, and the residents will have to approve ranked choice voting in order for that to be implemented in their town. All right, so although passing both of these policies are necessary components to the eventual use of ranked choice voting, it's only after state legislators pass the state enabling bill which changed the underlying laws authorizing municipalities to choose RCV, can the resolutions or the trigger ordinances be put into effect? So although our ground game and campaign is really focusing on passing local resolutions and trigger ordinances, the main objective is to use those local resolutions and trigger ordinances to signal to Trenton, our capital, that people want ranked choice voting, that municipalities and residents want to be empowered. And so that is kind of the relationship between the state objective and the local objective. So why we're here tonight is because we've had a lot of success with our local strategy to pass RCV, pro-RCV measures, and the resolutions and trigger ordinances are supportive of that one state enabling bill. So this graphic I love because it showcases the municipalities that we've won campaigns in. So there are 7 so far. There are 564 municipalities in New Jersey, so that's a big denominator. But what I will say is these 7 municipalities do represent about 5% of the voting population. And if we win the 2 more towns that we're currently organizing in, that will push us up to about 10%. So if we look at the size population affected, that's fairly sizable. We are making a dent. Something to call out here, I hope you can see it on the slide. There is a gap between the first municipality passing a local trigger ordinance, Hoboken, in December 2021, and the next municipality to pass one, which is Jersey City, nearly 3 years later. Well, technically 2 years later, but that's Jersey City. That was a big milestone, passing the ordinance in Jersey City. It led to a snowball effect. After Jersey City is the 2nd largest city in the state. And so after we won that campaign, we had a snowball effect locally and statewide. So in 5 months after Jersey City passed, we increased our number of local measures in favor of ranked choice voting by 250%. And we added 4 new bill sponsors to our bill. So just to highlight that, I'm showing you our Senate and Assembly bill sponsors. So our legislator has the Senate and the Assembly. Andrew Zwicker is our Senate sponsor. He is our champion. He also sponsors Bill 1631, and that would establish RCV for presidential primaries and general elections to elect the president and vice president, I believe. But we are, our organization is focused on the local enabling bill at this time. Our Assembly sponsor is John Allen, and you will see all these little asterisks. These stars are the legislators who signed on to the bill after Jersey City passed a local measure. Next, we're gonna highlight some of these municipalities as a case study for sort of the different actions or circumstances that led to a win. So like several municipalities, New Jersey in particular, you know, each municipality is heterogeneous, and there are different power dynamics on a governing board. People are influenced by varying, people are motivated or influenced by various interests. And so there was not one municipality that looked like another in terms of profiling them or in terms of our approach. So Jersey City was a campaign that took about 2 years from the moment of engagement through the city council passing it. It required a strong grassroots campaign to pass it. We had 2 out of the 9 council members who supported ranked choice voting, but the council president did not. So we had to work pretty hard in order to change hearts and minds on the city council. Montclair and Hoboken had one dedicated leader sitting on the city council, and in general, the rest of the board were mainly in agreement or in support of ranked choice voting. And so kind of the case study here, oh, did I lose my screen? The case study here is that having 1 or 2 dedicated leaders on a council that's neutral or pro ranked choice voting can make a big difference. And then in Maplewood and South Orange, organizations played a really important role in getting our resolutions passed and having influence with the city council. So this just highlights, some of the different strategies or approaches that ultimately ended up in success for us. So one key thing in our approach is to bridge local organizing with state efforts. We have a grass tops approach and a grassroots approach to passing the state enabling bill and passing local measures, the resolutions and trigger ordinances. And I would say that organizations are really key in helping us bridge local and state efforts as well. They can help connect us at the local level to activists, and at the state level, they can help us with state lobbying. I also think it's important to highlight our lead generation strategy, or how we're identifying and targeting municipalities. So I'll talk a bit about that. So one common data point or unifier across local and state is legislative districts, right? So we approach municipalities in 2 different ways. One is we do strategic targeting. So we look for municipalities that are within the districts of legislators who are key decision makers in advancing the bill or the bill passing, right? So what we do is we have identified who the legislative leadership is. So in the Assembly, that's the Speaker. In the Senate, that's the President. There are other positions in leadership, but those are the 2 that we've really targeted because they are the power broker. They pull the strings. The others are the bill committee members. So we look at those folks, and then the sponsors or co-sponsors of the bill, and we see what districts they're in, because the idea being that representatives should be responsive to the will of the people. So if, you know, we identify that there's a town in Middlesex County, which is the Assembly Speaker's District, we're going to try to work there to get them to pass a resolution or a trigger ordinance to get his attention, right? Because ultimately he is a gatekeeper of the bill and building support. So the second way that we identify and select municipalities is opportunistically. And this is people on the ground, individuals who hear about Voter Choice New Jersey, hear about the work we're doing, and they would like to start a campaign, start organizing, start reaching out to their local governing body to pass something where they live. Or we have, a local elected official who has some desire to pass RCV. And so that's an overview of our approach. Okay, so our main campaign components are education, educating the public, educating elected officials, lobbying. This includes direct outreach and engagement to convince state and local officials and administrators to support RCV. Local organizing, again, to build awareness and activate the community, and building relationships with individuals, organizations, and key players to create a strong statewide coalition or support for ranked choice voting. So here's our theory of change. More ranked choice voting education helps with more people and municipalities supporting ranked choice voting, passing local measures in support of it, and that translates to more support for the enabling legislation. So some of our campaign tactics, I will breeze through these. So these are some of the main activities and techniques that we use and that have proven to be successful for us. So in passing local RCV measures, we usually start with live outreach and education. So one thing that's been really successful for us are hosting rank the blank events or rank it events. And it's pretty self-evident what it is. And I think it was part of Rank the Vote's strategy. It's a toolkit as well. And so we've had a lot of success with these. We meet people where they are to teach them about ranked choice voting. We do email call to action campaigns. Sometimes these are to pressure a city council to even put a measure on the ballot. Other times it's to urge the council to pass a resolution that's already been on the ballot. So we use it different ways. And then we show up to City Hall and people make public comments. And then we've also found folks, individuals sitting on boards, city councils that have already passed ranked choice voting measures to help us lobby other council people. And that has been somewhat effective. We figured these RCV ambassadors, they know, they are the closest in situation. They can help navigate maybe administrative blockages. or other challenges that come up in regards to RCV conceptually or technically passing some sort of a measure. Bill sponsorships, some of our successful campaign tactics are to host lobby days at the State House in Trenton. We just increase our reach. We do lobbying meetings, and then for individual and organizational support, we partner with organizations on educational events and presentations. And then we do have a letter of support that we ask organizations to sign. And we also have a petition that we ask individuals to sign as well. And again, these are just to show elected officials that people want to see change. People are sick of the plurality system. And let's see, what else do we have here quickly? Okay, so next steps to passing our state enabling bill by June 2025. So we want to pass more local measures, especially Newark, which is New Jersey's largest city, and Trenton, which is New Jersey's capital. We are working on getting legislative support for all those districts where we've passed local measures. So the last 3 municipalities where we passed something, we have been targeting those legislators to sign the bill. Relationship building with organizations and increasing endorsements, particularly union endorsements. That is one key area. And I will also say we are really hoping to get a few more nonpartisan organizations on board. And then lastly, work with our bill sponsors to get a hearing for our bill and to strategize with them on the best next steps for a big push to advance the bill. So some of the lessons learned, don't give up. That is a big lesson. That's one that I know April has really perpetuated, and it's true. As I noted earlier, there was a big gap between our first local win and our second local win. And, often we were working with just 1 or 2 individuals to get the thing started. And then in a lot of places, where there may have been some resistance, a little grit, and support from Voter Choice New Jersey was able to get us across the finish line. So really don't give up. Second, be flexible, be adaptable, be nimble. And, there's no one size fits all approach. Essentially every single municipality that we won had a different campaign approach and had different dynamics. Relatedly, local leadership is important. It's crucial. Every successful campaign had at least 1 resident involved, 1 member on the governing board. In our cases, it was city council or town councils, 1 supporter of ranked choice voting. And then another important component are organizations. So not every municipality had, an organization behind the initiative, but in several places we did, and that was crucial. So 1 resident, 1 supporter on a governing board, and at least 1 organization. And oftentimes it was just 1 organization that had influence. And that probably also speaks to, again, sort of the environment of some of these municipalities. Some are dominated more so by 1 organization. Some have a whole coalition. And then I would say building, or we would say building local wins into your larger strategy. And then this is another one that April emphasized, and really here, we didn't just rely on public momentum and media narrative, we really worked to leverage connections and build our networks locally. And then we developed what we call a cluster approach, which I didn't talk about too much because this is a lot of information, but essentially building support in one area kind of spilled over into a halo effect, right? Where it had a positive effect on another town. And that was kind of the approach for Hoboken and Jersey City, and then Maplewood and South Orange. So that was something that that we, optimized, was that halo effect. And then the other interesting effect that is related to this lesson is, we have kind of a positive feedback loop by connecting our local organizing to our state efforts. The more, at least in theory, and we did see that with some of our local wins, and we hope to perpetuate that. And our sponsors have said the more local wins we have, the easier it is for them to convince their colleagues in committees and just sitting on, in the Senate in general, or Assembly. So I think that's it in terms of the presentation. Thank you all, and we can do Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank you. And boy, it really goes to show that people may have, read the press releases or read the news, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And we have some questions lining up, but I see a hand up, so I'm going to go right to David. David Green, go ahead and unmute.
Hello, folks. I'm sorry, I'm driving, but this is so wonderful, and congratulations to Voter Choice New Jersey for doing this. I'm organizing in New York now, so neighbor across the river, and definitely these are really important lessons. I had two questions on the kind of local front. One was how have you gone about identifying an initial? You said one of the important things was to have a champion on a local governing board or city council or whatnot. How have you gone about identifying that person? Have they just reached out spontaneously? Have you learned about it from a local group, etc.? And then my other question was, when you do have, say you have two people, but you need three more on a city council, and you said it, then you bring in grassroots support. What does that look like? Does that look like them having meetings with reticent city councilors? Does that look like them, getting a bunch of people to call in? What does that look like? So.
Yeah, great questions. And I would love to connect outside of this meeting. Actually, we used the fact that New York City passed ranked choice voting for mayoral elections, or the mayoral primary, as an incentive for Jersey City to to pass something too. Look at your neighbors in New York, how progressive and great they are.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So to answer your questions, usually we learned about a sympathetic or supportive council person from a local community leader, or through an organization. So, and then after having, doing an initial, kind of meeting, we would find out more about why that individual liked ranked choice voting, and then, tried to get intel on, what the temperature was like with the rest of the council. And then if in the event or scenario where there was a significant amount of opposition or ambivalence to ranked choice voting, and we needed to sway those people. Yeah, we had a number of different tactics. So often we would offer to give them a presentation, because there is a lot of misinformation about ranked choice voting. So, that's usually the first thing we would offer. Oftentimes, folks are willing to at least, have a discussion. Then we would either do a rank it event to generate buzz and attention. And then after that, we would push for, for adoption or for them to take an action, like put a measure on an agenda. But this was only if the kind of individual or group of council people said, okay, I think, through the rank it event, through the presentation, through my own lobbying, we could probably sway them. I would say in Jersey City, it was very interesting. It was nail biting down to the vote. We thought we had enough votes to get it passed, but we didn't get confirmation. So we took a leap of faith, right? And we brought a lot of people out when there was a second reading for the trigger ordinance. And we think that actually moved the needle when the council saw how many people were behind this effort. I hope that answered your questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
If we have a second, I'd love to just add something very briefly in terms of, how do you find those supportive council members initially? And definitely what Veronica said is right, is that we get a lot of good intel from activists or organizations on the ground. But it's also the case that sometimes you can just have a really motivated resident and give them the resources they need to email or call or go to a council meeting and just ask to meet with their council member. And that person might, if they get a good pitch from us, be really receptive and turn into a champ. That's actually what happened in Montclair. We just had a brand new volunteer who said, I want this for my town. I said, okay, great. Contact your local council person. He met him over coffee, and the guy was so interested and willing to step up and take the lead on this pretty much right away. So it's great to have the intel directly from groups on the ground, but also don't, shortchange that ability for residents to move the needle with their own council people.
Yeah, if I could add to that, thank you, April. I think it's important that you find a key informant in any municipality that you're going into, be it a resident or an elected official, and sort of power map what's going on in that municipality and what are the chances of getting a resolution or a trigger ordinance out of that particular municipal body. I just had a conversation today with an activist and former mayoral candidate from Camden today, and we spoke for about a half an hour about the situation in Camden. And at the end of that conversation, we came to the conclusion that Camden is not a good opportunity for an RCV resolution. We have developed some sort of guideline checklists around all of this that we could share with you, but I think it's important to, have eyes wide open and do your homework and power map the municipality that you want to target and see whether or not it's a good opportunity.
Well, Larry, my background was in technical writing, so I saw your question here too. Was that power map documented? How did you track interactions? What sorts of material did you use?
Well, I'm not saying that we were data crunching that. It was more of sort of a check the boxes about whether or not there's an opportunity there or not. This develops in conversations over time in our weekly meetings because at the end of the day, it's about relationships. And relationships are not easily placed on a spreadsheet.
I'm just going to add, I think what we experience in New Jersey is experienced everywhere else. I mean, municipalities are very, very different. In fact, there might be 500 more municipalities. There are different forms of government, the power structure within them. You can walk into a municipality that has the same mayor for the last 30 years, and nothing's going to get done in that municipality unless the mayor says it gets done. So I think that's what Larry's referring to when he talks about the possibility of something happening. Jersey City itself was a 9-person council. An ordinance is an inordinate amount of work to get done. They view ordinances as binding future councils. So that itself doesn't sit well for them in an RCV thing, meaning getting them to say, we're going to put this on the ballot. They're reluctant. And that's part of the reason why we've moved from trigger ordinances to resolutions, because councils are more willing to pass a resolution saying the same thing without the legal binding of a future municipality. But it took us in Jersey City, Veronica, I don't know how many community ranked this, something we had to do. For one council person, we had to do 2 events in senior centers because she was convinced that ranked choice voting was not going to be understood by seniors. We had a rank the beer event. We went to the university. You know, it was a lot of trying to convince the municipality, the council people, that there was support for it by their citizens. And that's why local organizing is an enormous, you know, it takes a tremendous amount of work. In some municipalities, and as we noted in Montclair, South Orange, there was a pre-existing indivisible group. They had very well-oiled relationships with their city council people, and things worked much faster. You didn't have to do as much proving to city council people that ranked choice voting was something that their municipality wanted. But there really are individual power issues. You know, we can walk into a council and if you want to pass a resolution, in some places, the mayor is totally irrelevant to that effort. We're discussing Newark right now, which is the largest city, where its mayor is going to be a gubernatorial candidate. The mayor doesn't have a say on a resolution, but in effect, the council's not going to do anything the mayor doesn't want them to do. So that's what I think we're trying to say about doing your homework, and, you know, individual residents who already have pre-existing relationships with these council people are the people to go in there and to make the initial talking with and finding and locating who's a potentially sympathetic person. So local residents that volunteer to us, come to us through our state meetings, or just see us on the website, they're the ones who really can make the entree into a local municipality, even though we have certain municipalities that we are targeting given who's in power in our state legislature.
So you're having to work inside the system, and you're such a wealth of information as we're listening to this. I think there are some, you know, professional lobbyists who would really benefit from listening to this too. So did you all have a background in the legislature, working in the state house, or a legal background? You know, how did you come to have all this knowledge?
Renee, you should go first.
Don't be bashful, Renee.
It's a combination. I am the executive director of a public interest law center. I have been more on the outside. I'm not a lobbyist, but over the 30 years that I've worked in the state of New Jersey, or 25 years, I have relationships with certain legislators. I've also watched what gets done and what doesn't get done. And I think that's the most that I'm adding to, you know, April's a professional organizer, student organizer. Veronica worked for the state as a policy analyst. Jack, you know, and Larry has done work in other movements. But I think our decision to do the local strategy, which was done pretty early in our existence, was done because we know the politics in our state. People might not know it, but we're the last state or the only state that has a party line in the primaries. And the political machines are extraordinarily strong in New Jersey, even though so this whole idea to shift to localities to sort of ease the pressure on state legislators that their races themselves are at issue here was done based on our understanding of how the parties work, how legislation is actually done in New Jersey. The reality of it is that no legislation gets passed without the speaker and the head of the speaker of the assembly and the majority leader. And doesn't matter if the governor wants it, if anybody else wants it, if one of those two men don't want it, nothing gets done. So we're working around that and understanding who has pressure on these legislators. The unions in the state of New Jersey are one of the key power brokers from the advocacy point of view. And that's something that we've come to where we're spending now time trying to get CWA, which represents the state employees, SEIU, and other power, you know, the unions are listened to by state legislators, more so than the good government groups. Though, you know, the good government groups are important on certain key issues, they're not as important in terms of legislation, getting things done. For instance, I was a litigator for same-day registration in New Jersey. We lost the lawsuit. We tried to get it was based on the notion of using provisional ballots, given that we have SVRSs and you don't need advanced registration. The League and some other groups have tried to get legislation passed for same-day registration based on that theory for the last 6 years, and it hasn't even gotten out of committee.
In
So-
municipalities, is there also that partisan effect, or are your municipal elections nonpartisan?
Well, that's there are most elections are partisan, but even in nonpartisan elections, they're pretty much dominated by one or the other party in our state. And so then that becomes a partisan race between incumbents and the non-incumbents.
And Craig, your hand is up. You can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful presentation. One additional sort of wrinkle that a number of municipalities have to deal with when thinking about ranked choice is how multi-member offices are elected, and it's something that occurs a lot more on the local level than at the state level. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're facing that at the local level in some of your municipalities, but it's been, you know, just an additional detail for us in Massachusetts cities and towns to additional effort for us to like explain and message and just sort of deal with. And I'm just wondering how that's sort of impacted anything you've done in New Jersey.
Yeah, I can speak on this a little bit. New Jersey is actually probably the most impacted state with regard to the prevalence of multi-winner elections. So the context for this is that it's difficult to say anything unique about New Jersey municipalities, given we have 500 of them. But in general, New Jersey voters will probably have an elected school board that is, in general, elected using a multi-winner system. So the vast, vast, vast majority of New Jersey voters will at least have one multi-winner elections. All New Jersey voters have one multi-winner election as well at the state level, because we elect two assembly people using a bizarre implementation of plurality for those elections. So what I would say is that we have had to do additional education, and I think that we share that right now there's a lack of educational resources about how to talk about these proportional elections. I think that we focus the vast majority of our messaging on single winner races and succeed well. We just try to keep our messaging straightforward enough that we can adapt it well to the proportional context when it's appropriate. When we have, for example, a dedicated article to how ranked choice voting works in the context of school board elections because of the prevalence of that question. So the key is to just create the educational resources we need and provide them strategically, but also don't lead conversations with it, because I find that explaining proportional elections to Americans is more difficult than explaining a ranked ballot.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we can provide, I'll provide that as a reference if that'd be helpful.
We actually have 2 fact sheets that were asked for by the sponsor of the bill. One on how you count a single race election and how you count a multi-race election.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, compare it to our own materials.
It was also quite ample. I think, our sponsor Zwicker is a physicist, and when he wrote his state enabling bill, he has a state enabling bill he had at one point for state legislative and congressional districts. He right away put in proportional representation for multi-races.
Yeah.
From a point of view of getting legislators to get into this, that was done by Zwicker himself. And I think now, Veronica, wasn't it recently that you just produced a fact sheet on how you count a single seat race and how you count a multi-seat race?
Yeah, Jack and I produced a one sheets on those. Yeah, we can send them to you, Celia. They're in PDF to distribute to all the attendees here.
Thank you. That would be tremendously helpful. And Steve, am I seeing your hand up for a question?
Yeah, I can't find the thing at the bottom that says raise hand. I just wanted to point out that this has really driven home some things to me, it being from Florida. In 2007, I believe it was, we passed ranked choice voting for the Sarasota City Commission by 78%. But the state just kept dragging their feet. In the meantime, we worked with people up in Clearwater and in Gainesville, and they were all interested in doing it, but they kind of wanted to wait and see what happened in Sarasota first. And of course, when DeSantis decided that there wasn't going to be any ranked choice voting in the state, that all fell apart. But I'm wondering now, I mean, that took about 3 or 4 years before the law was finally changed. I'm wondering now in retrospect, if we hadn't been better off to kind of follow your lead and to keep on advancing to other cities and get other cities to say that, yes, we want to do this. Not necessarily having to go to the public vote, which we did in Sarasota, but just with resolutions and ordinances like you guys have. I mean, to me, this just sounds wonderful. And I missed the middle part of this meeting, and I'm looking forward to the recording. And I'm sure going to be taking it to our next team leaders meeting with some strong recommendations. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's really sweet. I think that one thing that we think about in this strategy is that we're able to demonstrate, and I think this is something that you probably agree with as well, is that we were able to demonstrate like very different communities wanted this. The problem that we had was, oh, this is a New York City thing, is what we'd constantly hear. Oh, this is a city problem. This isn't actually relevant for us, right? And when we were able to pass ranked choice voting demand in both Jersey City, I think probably soon to be our largest municipality, and Red Bank, a small town on the Jersey Shore with only 9,000 people, I think it woke a lot of people up to realizing, oh, this is something that a lot of communities want. We're looking for other communities across the state to really demonstrate that demand. But when you're planning that out, one thing that I would say that didn't maybe get captured in this presentation is trying to not only plan of like, okay, where do our existing key legislators supporting ranked choice voting, but could we, for example, get ideological diversity, size diversity, racial diversity in the kinds of municipalities that we can craft supportive resolutions and ordinances for. Yeah, awesome. Very cool.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expert knowledge on this, and your story really is inspiring as we see. So I just want to thank everyone for coming here, and I will send out a recording with this information and your fact sheets. And we'll really take to heart, Veronica, your slide. I wish I remembered all the 3 parts, but don't give up, right? Be nimble, and the successes can pile up.
I just wanted to call it. Oh, if anyone here has additional questions, or if you're watching the recording, please feel free to reach out to us. We heavily monitor the email info@voterchoicenewjersey.org. So if any question comes along your way as you're thinking more, we would love to get back.